Yes. It's a new hymn?
It's a new hymn. We
Yeah,
finished previous. Okay, again Parashara Shaktya, Trishtubh, 10 verses hymn. Let us start with mantra. Om Vang me manasi pratishthitam, mano me vachi pratishthitam, Aviravirma edi. Vedasyama anisthaha shrutam me ma prahasihi anena dihitena horatran samdadhami ritam vadishyami satyam vadishyami tanmamavatu tadvaktaramavatu avatu mam avatu vaktaram avatu vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So the first verse, Nakaviya vidhasach shashvatach kar, haste dadhano nariya puruni, agnir bhuvat raipati rahinam, satra chakrano amritani vishwa. He forms within us the seer wisdoms. He forms within us the seer wisdoms of the eternal Creator, holding in his hand many powers or many strengths of the Godheads. May fire become the treasure master of the riches, ever fashioning all immortal things. Quite a verse. He creates within us, it's my interpretation, the wisdom utterances, kavyani, literally poems, yes, kavyas. Sri Aurobindo says seer wisdoms instead of utterances or poems. These are seer wisdoms. Poems are seer wisdoms, actually, of the eternal Lord, vidhasach shashvatach. Interestingly, that Sri Aurobindo translates it as creates within us or in us, because ni prefix is used. And ni is usually going down or inward. Inwardly, kar, he creates the kavyas, the poetic utterances or the wisdom utterances of the eternal Lord, Shashvatach Vedhasach, or the eternal ordainer, the one who distributes all things in the right manner, who creates the universe. Haste Dadhano Nariya Puruni, he holds in his hands many powers of the Godheads. Now, Nariyani Puruni, Puruni many, Nariyani powers of the Godheads, Sri Aurobindo translates. It's from Nara, Nari. And we spoke about this, that Nara in the classical Sanskrit means mainly a man, but male. But in the Veda, it is this, Sri Aurobindo translates it as heroic power or heroic souls of man, or heroic powers of the soul of man. So these heroic powers are naras. And by naras, we call also great godheads who dared to come to this sacrifice. So great godheads such as, for example, Mitra, Varuna, these Adityas, the highest transcendental godheads, the guardians of light, they are called Naras also in the Veda. It's quite amazing. So they are kind of in the post-Vedic, it's only a male, a man, and in the Vedas, it is the godheads. But those who dared to do the sacrifice. And that's why he calls them as the heroic soul powers of the soul, or heroic souls of man. So in many different places he translates differently. These heroic powers of the soul are actually those godheads. They are the powers which manifest the divine here, work for this manifestation through our soul. Soul operates by these universal powers and makes them work here. So all is connected in one very comprehensive vision. Sri Aurobindo translates Dadhana as holds. Many translate root Daha in the Veda as holding, but main is establishing, yeah? Setting, establishing, putting into place. And this is something interesting, because if we translate it in this way, then holding and establishing the many actions of the heroic power of the soul. This is how I kind of gather all the elements of Sri Aurobindo's translations from different places and put them here for the same words he would translate in different places. So it gives some other additional sense. So he is not only creating within us the wisdom utterances of the Lord. It's quite amazing. Yes, the flame within us creates the wisdom utterances of the eternal Lord. So we will speak in his tongues, as it were, in his speech. And he is also establishing the actions of the heroic soul of man into manifestation. And this is Hasteda Dharana. So holding in the hand or establishing in the hand. And the hand is interesting symbolic power. It's this, as we know, it is the power of action, of royalty. As when we look into the Purusha Sukta, we can see that the mouth is the organ of wisdom, of manifestation of the word of the Lord, and the hands represent Kshatriya power. If mouth represents Brahmana's power, then hands Kshatriya power. And wherever there is hand, and establishing in the hand means puts into action, I can translate. Yeah? Puts into action all the heroic powers of the soul. It's him. Not only creates the meanings within our being of the eternal Lord, but also puts them into action. So we have Brahma and Kshatram, these two foundations of the Veda. And they continue for a long time till the end of Upanishadic times. We hear this even in Mahabharata, Brahma and Kshatram, Brahma and Kshatram. These are two foundations of the knowledge. Consciousness and power, yeah? Knowledge and power, these two. So Hasta represents this action of power, whereas Kavya, poem, mouth, yeah, utterance represents the knowledge, the word and the action. So holding and establishing many actions, or establishing the actions within the man of his heroic power of the soul. Agni becomes the lord of wealth, of all wealth. Rainam, Raipati Rainam. It's just doubling his importance of this luminous wealth of the spirit, making by himself the immortal things all over. Literally, I'm translating literally. Satra all over, everywhere, all the time and everywhere. Chakrana, making. But chakrana is in the Atmanepada, in the middle voice, means making by himself or for himself, or by himself for himself, making all the immortal things. So it is by his own substance that the mortal things come into existence in this world. Yeah? He is the substance of these immortal things. Yeah, if you have any question or want to say something, please, you just unmute yourself and speak. And then second verse. Asmeva.
I had a
Yes?
quick question, Vladimir. I wanted to understand what is the power of the soul?
Ah, well, the soul has many powers. And we speak about them as 12 principles now, living principles or qualities, or in the Vedic tradition, the powers of the soul are actually the gods.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
Thank you.
well, we invoke the god. We are Yajamana, to whose call, and that is the flame within, to whose call all the gods answer, and they come and they help us to widen the scope of our consciousness and action and being. And so basically they are the helpers, and we are the initiator and the doer of the sacrifice. Yajamana, yeah? Our soul. I didn't see who was there, that's why I switched off. Now I'm coming back. Okay, asme vatsam parishantamna vindan ichanto vishve amrita amurah shramayuvah padaviyo dihiyandhah tasthufpade parame charu agneh. All the immortals, the wise ones, desire but found not, desired but found not in us the child who is all around. Turning to toil on his track, upholding the thought, they stood in the supreme plain, they reached the beauty of the flame. Mysterious verse, because we do not know who are these wise and mortal ones. Literally, in us, the deer calf, Vatsam. Vatsa is used as deer later, and not only later in Brahmanic literature, when a teacher speaks to dear Shishya, he speaks Vatsa. Yes, oh Vatsa. It's kind of calf or calf. It's a kind of a very specific to Indian culture. You would not speak in a Western culture or calf to your child. Yeah? Only in India, that means so dear, because this young calf, small cow, is very dear to everyone in Indian culture. So, asme vatsam parishantam. In us, the vatsa In us, the dear calf, I say, because that's how I add dear, because I want to emphasize that. Dear child, even. Sri Aurobindo says child. Is hidden. Why I translate is hidden because pari santam. So he, Sri Aurobindo translates as all around. All the immortals once desired found here, the child who is all around could not find. In us, the dear calf is hidden. I will explain later. The wise immortal being seeking could not find him. Aspiring and working hard, following his tracks, holding to the higher vision, they stood in the supreme plane and found the beauty of Agni. I'm following also the translation of the Western scholars, Indologists. Staying, santam is being, pari, around, rounded, being rounded or held, hidden in a way. It can be translated in this way, or is all around. As Sri Aurobindo translates directly without any specification of this kind. Why around? Because they didn't find him, and that most probably confused the scholars that he's all around and they didn't find him. But that's the whole kind of paradox of the. So Agni is everywhere, and they, the immortal seeking him, could not find him. This energy of the divine is in everyone, everywhere, all around us, and we can't see it. And even wise and immortal beings cannot find him easily. They are aspiring and working hard. Shramayu vach, Shramayu, seeking kind of or attempting or making effort. Padavyach, following in his tracks, on his steps. Dhyamdhach, holding the higher thought or holding to the higher vision. They are aspiring, following him in his steps and holding to the higher vision. They arrive at the highest, at the supreme realm, Pade Parame, Charu Agnich, and discover the beauty of the flame. Here we can see that if we translate as Sri Aurobindo is all around us, as the Agni is the universal power, is not the flame in the heart. If we translate as hidden within us, asme, in us.
Is this the psychic flame?
In us, psychic, all around us, the universal, yes. Sri Aurobindo says somewhere that when Vedic rishis speak of Agni, they never speak of him as individual flame. Yeah. And I found nowhere Sri Aurobindo speaking of Agni as psychic being of the Veda. Even there was the whole dispute. We spoke about this before, but I will remind you. I'll repeat myself. Even before there is a discussion with the mother, Satprem asks the mother, is there the psychic being in the Veda? And she says no, there is no psychic being in the Veda. And in other mysterious place, she says, somebody asked her, did Vedic rishis know about the flame in the heart, about the divinity in the heart. And she says, no, they didn't, but they discovered it. So we have some very kind of a situation where we are on the edge from the more universal flame, which is well known to the rishis. And these are the Purusha sacrifice. We spoke about this, the sacrifice by nature towards more and more flame in the heart, love towards the divine. And in many verses, in many hymns, Agni is addressed in these two forms, as beloved and worthy of sacrifice. On that worthy of sacrifice is the universal flame, whereas beloved is that flame within the heart. So if we translate Parishantam as hidden within, staying within, being within, held, and they could not find him, even immortal ones and wise ones, then it is that psychic flame. If we Parishandam as all around us as the universal flame.
So that is the child, the deer calf.
Right. I thought so. That's why I kind of follow this Parishantam as the hidden within, yes, because if calf, and that is the dear one, the dear child is the flame within the heart. It calls to this imagery, yes, immediately.
Yeah.
Vladimir, I was reading The Secret of the Veda. In that, there's a chapter, The Seven Rivers. They have mentioned this, the child of the earth and heaven, talking about the divine power. And there's this paragraph which is beautiful. I was wondering whether it has something to do with that.
Yeah. We will come to heaven and earth in the next. They will be there, or the sea, the luminous foundations, which actually churning, or, they're kind of, and by that they're constant, not scratching, what do you call it? Not churning. The Agni is born. Agni is that flame between heaven and earth, yes? Father and mother, these are two luminous foundations, or two mothers, yeah, the higher and the lower. They are the dawn and the night. They are the two mothers of Agni. These are the constant imagery of the Veda, yes? And he is their child. It could be also seen in this way, that this is the universal child of these two firmaments. So there are several interpretations, and all of them make sense in this vast division, but you can choose what you desire. Maybe all of them you can choose in one go. All the immortals, the wise ones, desired, but found not in us the child who is all around. Most probably it's even about this story that Vedic rishis did not know about the hidden flame in the heart. They were looking for him, and he is all around, and they couldn't find him within until they found him. And they found him in this way, they turning to toil on his track. So they were following him everywhere, seeking for him within, upholding the thought, the higher thought, fixing their consciousness onto the highest realm they could. They stood in the supreme plane. They reached the beauty of the flame. It could be that when we rise to the highest supramental plane or close to it, the flame will reveal its presence within the heart, yeah? And that spark will become visible or perceptible. For us, it's very different because we are in a different evolutionary stage. Much was done before us, yes, by these Vedic rishis and by the mother and Sri Aurobindo, And so we are more aware of our innermost being, about our psychic presence. That time it was less obvious. By the way, in the esoteric history is the same story. There is an esoteric history, occultistic, that the inner flame, the inner discovery of the individual soul comes much later. The whole bhakti movement comes later. It is not there in the Vedas, though we had a presentation by Matthew, who said that the bhakti is in the Veda. There is no bhakti in the Veda. There is no bhakti in Upanishads even. In that form as we have it later in Ramayana, for example. Love towards your father, mother, brotherly love, like Lakshmana and Bharata's love towards Rama. These things are not available, or to Sita. This love.
Sita's love for her husband.
Right, and his love for Sita. This thing is not, nobody cries that somebody died in the texts of the previous time. Like Rama was, crying when he heard that Dasharatha died from Bharata, and so on. There are too many examples to see that this emotional bhakti part, love, dedication, comes later. And that is most probably in the evolution of consciousness. It's justified because this flame within was there, but it was not so prominent. And you can see that in Indian tradition also, the psychic being is not so prominent. They don't put onto it so much importance. Yes, they rather discuss nirvana or samadhi or siddhis or whatever. There are so many other things which one can have experiences, spiritual, but not the psychic.
I remember listening to one of Dr. Sumitra Basu's webinars, and he said the psychic is in the fourth dimension. And, that could be one reason why it was not known.
I think it's an evolutionary reason more. From my side, as I think about it, everything is in the fourth dimension, all these powers. Agni itself is a universal Agni in the fourth dimension.
Is it possible, Vladimir, that Krishna brought the dimension of bhakti?
I think so. From Rama it started, and Krishna, when he was small, he always played Rama, he wanted to be Rama. He was running with a bow. I am Rama, he was saying. So Krishna wanted to be Rama, and most probably Krishna is establishing even more. He is more of a mental godhead, of course. Less there of that, but the psychic becomes very prominent with Krishna. You're right. The child, loving the child, Yashoda, all those elements of love and devotion are coming with Krishna more prominently than before, much more. And from that time on, we see this movement of bhakti movement. Yeah? There are interesting kind of observations of in Indian culture. You will see also that it's all connected with Vishnu for some reason, avatars, the child. You don't hear about Shiva as a child, or something. Never. Nobody knew Shiva as a child. He was always there, the adult from the beginning. Nobody plays with him and loves him as a child. So this child is that flame within, that Vatsa, yes, who is dear to us, who loves the father and the mother, who is loved by the father and the mother. This kind of exchange which only psychic can establish. Otherwise, of course, the Godheads, they don't have this love. They don't need it. They act differently. They are typal beings. As Mother explains, they had no idea about love until they tried the psychic being. Love in the sense of devotion to the divine, not lust, not attraction, not desire. It's not love, yes, as a devotion. So I got carried away a bit with all this. Okay, so they discovered this beautiful place of Agni in the highest heaven by what? By laboring hard, by tracking him down, and by establishing the higher thought in the higher vision. So fixing their consciousness. Dhyam Dhah, double. Dhi is the thought, higher thought, Dha, holding, establishing. But why they couldn't find him? Yes, Deepti.
Sorry. I was just reminded about Narad, the sage Narad.
Yes.
So what does he represent? Because he's there across all spectrum.
He's Devarishi, yes, according to tradition. Devarishi is only one. It's interesting. There are many rishis, but Devarishi is one. He has his role to play. He's a messenger of some kind, very close to Vishnu, and very jealous of Vishnu's attention to others. Wants all the attention of Vishnu to be onto himself. You know the story with the Janaka king, and where he couldn't believe that there can be greater bhakta than himself. I am the greatest bhakta of Vishnu, and then there is someone else there. It was very, very hurting him. So he wanted to check on Janaka king and went there to him and stayed with him and was kind of following him everywhere, trying to figure out in what sense he could be better than him. Loving more Vishnu. He didn't see it until he discovered it, yes, and then he understood why Vishnu said so. But yes, I do not know what Narada. Narada is such an amazing creation. I don't know where to put him, really. It's one of those rishis. There are many beings about which we have no idea. Siddhas, all kinds of, when Vishvarupa Darshana in the Gita takes place, all those creatures, unknown, showed themselves, from previous manvantaras, from previous kalpas. They are still somewhere there in those subtle worlds. What do we know about them? We are living a very, very narrow selection, very specific, selection of that infinity of beings and creatures and names. Because we have something else to work out in this time, yes? And these Vedic rishis, Purva Rishaya, first seers, brought to us the intention of the group soul in the Veda. Yeah? So Veda itself is the formulation of this intention of the group soul. So we have some purpose, some work to do. And that work is narrowing down the infinity to a particular purpose and particular selection of creatures to work with. And maybe selection of souls also, even. Not all the souls are participating in this particular manvantara or this particular yuga. So we have very little knowledge, even terminology. We can't even call these things. So, but Vedic tradition and later Brahmanic tradition is very rich, and they name all these creatures and they give them different functions and they know them by names. We don't know them. We kind of reduced everything to one deity, one God, and one son of God. That's it. That's enough. It's easier to follow. Just believe it. Everything will be fine. No, and now, number 3. Tisroyat agne sharadach tuvam it shuchim gritena shuchayach saparyan namani chit dadhire yajniyani asudayanta tanua sujadach. When for 3 years, O fire, they worshipped thee, the pure ones, thee, the pure, with the clarity of the light, they held to the sacrificial names. Their bodies came to perfect birth, and they sped them on the way. 3 years, O Agni, they are pure worshipped. They who are pure worshipped you, the pure, with the luminous clarity in their mind. They established indeed the sacrificial names and perfectly born, fashioned their bodies. This is something amazing, really, if you think of what is being expressed. What is these 3 years? I cannot tell you. There is no explanation. That for 3 years they worshipped him, the pure. They followed him, served him. The pure followed and served and worshipped the pure with their clarity, with Gharitena, with the clarified bhata. Shubhendra says that clarified bhata is the clarity in the mind or luminosity of the transformed mentality. With their transformed mentality by the Spirit, they worshipped him, the pure, being themselves pure. And Tadhire, and established Namani, the names Yajniyani, worthy of sacrifice. The names which create the transformative effect of nature, by the Spirit. Names are very important in the Veda. The rishis discovered new names. It's said in the other hymn. To discover new names means to discover new meanings, which have to be embodied in manifestation, which were not there before. We had no idea that this would come. And it comes from this inner self-expression in us, which Agni establishes of that eternal Lord, those kavyani, yes, those poems or the wisdom utterances by the Supreme Lord. They bring the new names worthy of sacrifice. So these pure forces worshipping the pure with the clarity in the mind established new names worthy of sacrifice. And Asudayanta Tanua Sujatah, and being perfectly born Sujatah, sped those bodies or those embodiments forward. They sped them on the way, Asudayanta, that's how Sri Aurobindo translates. I translate as fashion because Rutsudayati can be to fashion, to clarify, to speed up, and so on. or to make them absolutely perfect. They made them the bodies, the extensions. The body tanu, from root tan to spread. So we spoke about this already also. We have two types of kind of views on our bodies. Our bodies are spread in space. It's interesting how they are spread in space because the space is constantly moving and our body is constantly covering a new space. We don't see it. We see it as it is all here, but we don't see it this, the comet's tail through the space, through billions of years, because we are flying 1 million kilometers per hour, the speed with which we fly, our body flies. So within 1 hour, we cover 1 million kilometers. So you can imagine how much we already covered in our lifetime. So this is one extension, tanu, and there is another extension in time. We are born in specific time, in a specific constellation of all the bodies, and we live in a specific time, and this time frame is also an extension, is also our body. There is time body and there is space body in us. So these tanuach, these extensions, they made perfect being perfectly born. These embodiments are made perfect. Now, the word Namani, the names, is also important to understand from the point of view of the meanings. Yeah? Meanings of this kind of the comprehensive cognition, formations which create new understanding. In the ancient times, the name was always secret, Even now in India also, they have the official name and the secret name for the inner use, for the internal use in the family. You do not know that name. You do not speak that name to others. It's interesting. So this kind of idea of the secrecy of the name is still there in many cultures. And there is a reason for it, because the name has access to the very being, yes. So you can, by knowing the name, you can operate the being. The being has to answer. It's interesting. When you call the name, being is to answer because you call his name. Why we answer to the call of the name? We lost that track, but it is there deeper. There is a deeper sense of the name. In Kena Upanishad, for example, when the gods tried to find out what was the Yakshas, and they Agni first, then Vayu, then Indra, and nobody knew who it was until Indra came to Uma, and Uma told him that it was Brahman. And when he heard that it was Brahman, he was totally satisfied. He knew what it was by the name. He didn't ask, what is Brahman? Tell me. Explain to me Brahman. No, Brahman itself is enough to know for Indra. The name is the key to know the power, to know the quality, to know what that thing can do. Everything essential. It's not just the token of some kind of object. It's the secret entry to the innermost or the quintessential characteristic of the being. Well, just have to say this because then it makes more sense when they establish these worthy of sacrifice names, new focal points which create the world, which generate new beings, and being perfectly born, these extensions were made perfect.
Vladimir, in India,
Yeah, you're muted again.
in India, when the people are initiated, the guru gives them a name.
Mm-hmm.
That becomes their spiritual name. So something like this, what you just explained, it's the
Even
key.
that, yeah, even that. Narada, for example, Narada got his name from the mother.
Yeah.
I always tell him he's really Narada. All his life he was Narada. Savitri, poetry, all that, going around proclaiming things. Narada, absolutely. Yeah, mother found Narad for herself also. So you were asking Deepti who was Narad. You can ask Narad. He will tell you about himself. You will know more. Well, this is, for me, this verse is really a revelation. Because there is some kind of perfection in the body, in the extension, which the Vedic rishis were seeking. Yeah? They wanted to be perfect in the embodiment. The immortality is coming closer. And perfection in the birth. Sujata.
So, Vladimir, what are the 3 years? Could it be the yugas or the kalpas?
I think Sharadach, 3 autumns, literally. I don't know. Why 3 years? I know that the longer the concentration is held uninterruptedly, the more effective it is. Yeah, this much we know. They speak also about 9 months. Yes, Marta?
Yeah, I was just thinking that the number 3 has a lot of significance in many cultures. It's associated with divinity.
Yes, yes. 3, 7, well, 1, 2, and the whole kind of, yes, but 3 has, Trinity. Trinity. It's a total, it's the representation of the spirit. So the Navagva rishis, the rishis of 9 rays, become Dashagva rishis of 10 rays by being concentrated for 9 months. Sri Aurobindo says 9 months, a total day and night focus on the sacrifice. We see this in many places in Ramayana, Mahabharata, where the sacrifice is to be held over day and night for some time. And the Rakshasas are trying to interrupt it, yes, so throwing some kind of impurities into the fire or attacking, disturbing the concentration. So this concentration, once it is disturbed, so sacrifice is not taking place. The transformation is difficult. So it needs a specific tanu, extension in time. And if time is not completed, then the transformation is not done. You fall back, you start again. There's some kind of ruling principle in this extension in time. That's why most probably we are dancing 2 steps forward, 3 steps backward. Don't go forward, you kind of dancing on the spot. All our advances are very small because we do not have that concentration, overwhelming, uninterrupted uninterrupted consciousness. That's what we need. To establish it is quite difficult, but once it is established, it can be maintained.
Is a lot of triple down this? Because they speak about even Indra as a lot of triple down.
Yeah, the dawn on the 3 levels, yes, on the mental, vital, and physical. Maybe these years here also, the planes could be, because Navagvarishi, Sri Aurobindo says, we can treat them, see them as realms or the planes of consciousness, or the months, 9 months. Yeah. And 9 months, as we know, the child is growing in the womb. So on the 10th month, it is born. Also not by kind of casual number of months. So this concentration over 9 months does something, brings to birth a new being. We may try and see. Let us do it in 9 months of concentration and see what will happen to us on the 10th month. We can't concentrate even for 5 minutes. The next 5 minutes we forget what was there before. So what to say about 9 months or a day? Try to concentrate, or try to be, as Mother says, sincere for 5 minutes, and you will see how difficult it is. This time frame does something to us, you know. It dilutes our evolutionary aspiration towards change. It really dilutes it. Yeah? Nature hijacks all the individual efforts and introduces her own kind of movement. And we are carried away by that movement of nature. Cannot easily establish it with kind of compromise with nature. And she does not easily allow us to do it. I kind of generate new thoughts for myself also, don't worry. This is, I never thought of it before, but it is true. You can see it everywhere, in every tapasya, ascetics, when they try to concentrate consciousness, there is already smoke coming up of that concentration, yeah, because he's uninterruptedly there for some time, for some months or years, and the gods are alarmed. They're afraid that this universe will collapse. That means that natural process of nature is actually can be altered or alternated by this concentration of the ascetics. And then gods start sending some apsarasas to deviate attention, to break the... And then apsarasas, Menaka starts dancing. And then Vishwamitra, somehow, in that moment of time, his eyes opened and he saw the perfect, you know, maiden. She was perfect, as he noticed. And then the whole effort of building up himself goes nowhere. Then for 1,000 years he lives with Menaka, and then he wakes up one day and says, what has happened to me? These 1,000 years passed like in no time. Well, Menaka, thank you very much for being with me. Bye-bye. He gave her very good, big goods and blessings. And he went again into tapasya. You know the story of Vishwamitra. And then again, the smoke. Again, the gods are alarmed. He may create his own universe. Can you imagine? This focus of consciousness can create a new universe, and they are afraid that he will change them and everyone, and they send another nympha. But she was begging, please don't send me. Second time it won't work. And it didn't work second time. He cursed her and gods, and so he went back into his tapasya. So tapasya is a very great power we have. And what is interesting, tapasya is in time. Yeah, the concentration of consciousness in time. This is the secret of all tapasyas. One should not interrupt it. One should hold on to it in spite of everything. Mother somewhere beautifully gives an example. If you are attacked and you are focused on your goal and you are attacked by kind of forces which want to deviate you from your path, you have to hold on to this, your concentration, as if you're holding to the pillar in the strong wind is carrying you away and you hold to the pillar. You should not let go the pillar. In spite of everything, let it be the end of the world. Hold on to the pillar. And then the wind will go down and the whole storm will settle. And then you will come back as a victor. You will have more force, more power. Of course, there will be stronger winds coming after that, but they will make you only stronger and stronger and stronger. But little breeze and we run away. A little gust of the wind and we already, our mind goes off. So until we are ready to really endure in time, this will not happen, real change. I'm speaking rather to myself about this than to you. I need to tell this to myself. Please hold on to the pillar, don't fall back. How many times it was already. And then here comes the last verse, or the last for today, I guess. A little. With this rodasi, rodasi brahati vevidanah, prarudriya, jabrire yajniyasah, vidan marto, nemadhita chikitvan, agnim pade parame tasthivansam. The masters of sacrifice discovered, and in their impetus might bore the vast earth and heaven. These are the vast earth and heaven. Then the mortal knew them, and by his holding of the upper hemisphere perceived the fire standing in the supreme plane. Having discovered the two vast and luminous foundations, the masters of sacrifice bore forward them by their power of Rudra, Rudriya. Shubhendra translates it differently here, as in their impetus might. That's how it translates power of Rudra. The mortal found them aware of the upper half, discovering the flame staying in the supreme realm. So it's the universal flame, which is discovered in the supramental world, let us say, or close to it. Rodasi, interesting term. The two luminous foundations, vast, brihati, and heaven is vast and earth is vast, and they are both luminous. How come that heaven is luminous and earth is luminous? Yeah? We think of earth as something dark. We don't think that earth is luminous, but it is. And especially in the highest heaven, These two luminous foundations, they're equal and one. Earth, heaven and earth equal and one. There is no more yet the split. There is no hierarchy. They are one and the same. Not the same, but one. So
there are seven kinds of earth, no, Vladimir? So maybe the higher realms of earth, the seven planes, Bhur, Bhuva, Swaha, Maha.
Oh, that's you call earth. Well, these are brother realms, or the states of being. Bhur is the earth, Bhuvah is the space, Swar is the heaven. So if you call them earths, then of course there are triple earths mentioned in the Veda, Tisro Bhumi. And we spoke about these. These are the physical, vital physical, and mental physical. Sri Aurobindo says that this triplicities can be just symbolic, because truly speaking, there are seven within seven. So there should be seven earths, but earths, not like heaven and so on. There can be, but it's more difficult for our mind to clarify. So I will not go into it, not to confuse anyone. But these Rodasi, two luminous firmaments, two heaven and earth, is interesting because they are luminous. Maybe because if you look at Earth, the core of our Earth is actually a sun hidden within, yes, shining. It is a warm planet. Yeah. And there is magma within, and there is a core which is actually nuclear core, the same as the sun. So we have the sun within the earth and the sun there. So we have two suns basically. One is hidden below, and the other is above the head. It's the same as Vedas speak about our psychological reality, that the supreme is hidden within the darkness of our inconscient matter. Interestingly, the nature recreated the same story, physically, as psychologically, so to say, one to one. That what is above is identical or analogical to that which is below. So they reflect one another, the psychological or spiritual and physical reality. So this Rodasi is a mysterious term. I always thought that it is about the heaven and earth in the supramental plane. So when they discovered them, these two vast foundations, or the foundations on which everything is manifested, the supramental movements of what we call the godheads of the Daksha, Amsha, and Surya. Yes? Sri Aurobindo speaks of the one in many, and many in one, and many, these three levels of the supermind. Then they bore forward, they brought forward by the force of Rudra, they who are worthy of sacrifice, and the mortal discovered in the highest realm or in the higher hemisphere, knowingly discovered Agni, staying there in the highest heaven. This is amazing, yeah. If you think of knowing about the higher hemisphere, very strange word which is met only in this hymn, Nemidha, Nema Dhita, sorry, but I say Nema Dhita. Nema is half, Dhita established. It is met only in this verse, nowhere else. I didn't put it here, but in the dictionary you will find 172.4 mentioned once. But Nema is half. Sri Aurobindo translates it as upper hemisphere, and by his holding of the upper hemisphere perceived the fire. Okay, we can stop here for today. The Veda is mysterious, of course, and not everything is so clear as it should be to the mind of black and white distinctions, which wants to know everything for sure. Where is that knowledge for sure? There is no for sure knowledge here. If we have to grow into that consciousness, it's not about telling us how things are or what to do. It is how it is. And if consciousness grows into it, it will see those elements and more. And if not, then we will translate as as Western Indologists do. No harm done. Anyhow, the text protects itself very nicely. You may grow into it and then you become aware of certain realities or not, but then it's fine. No harm. Lovely. Okay, so I will close with mantra. We are late already. Om Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinaha Sarve Santo Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Adios.